Second.
All right, we have a motion made and seconded. We certify our closed session. Any comments? If not, Judy, please.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Marie.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Krieger.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
And Mayor Helson.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, thank you, Judy. And ladies and gentlemen, if you would stand, we'll have our invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. Let us pray, please. Heavenly Father, we're grateful for the day, and we are grateful for the many blessings that you have bestowed on each and every one of us. We ask that you would be sensitive to us tonight, that you would be present in these chambers as we deliberate the issues of our city. We just pray, Lord, in all that we do, that we will make those decisions that are favorable to those that we serve. And we make our prayer in your Son's name. Amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have some special presentations on the agenda tonight, but I don't see either of the two individuals that we were going to present to. So, Randy, do you have some introductions that you'd like to make?
Mr. Mayor, we have a couple of new employees we'd like to
Okay.
introduce to you if they're here. Andrea Ambrose, who is here. You may remember Andrea. She used to work with the city. And while we are working to fill Mr. Carter's vacancy, she is doing a fantastic job helping us out. If you will come up, Andrea, just introduce yourself. And even though some members of council may know you, may not all know you.
Well, I am Andrea Ambrose. I was here from, I guess it was the spring of '05 until the summer of '06, and I am back helping Debbie out for a little while until she finds someone to fill Mr. Carter's position permanently. I'm only here part-time, so I'm trying to help out as much as I can.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Doing a great job.
Good to see you.
And Carl Wood, are you here? Thank you. I'm sorry, Carl. Come up forward, please. Carl recently joined us in the Utilities Department, and we're very proud to have stolen him away from York County.
Carl.
My name is Carl Wood. For those of y'all that don't know me, I've lived here for 23 years. Finally made it back to the city I was once born in.
Good for you.
So I just thank y'all for letting me work in this great city.
We're glad you had it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Carl.
And that is it.
All right, sir. Can you introduce the order presentation?
Yeah, Teresa, would you like to make that presentation or introduction?
Tonight we have Bob Belot. He's a partner with Cherry Becker and Holland who did our independent audit, and he's here to give his results.
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you, Teresa, Randy, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Ms. Wiggins. In addition to delivering the formal results of the audit itself, I do have some required communications having to do with the conduct of the examination that I'll speak very briefly with you about tonight. If there's any questions after I've made those comments, by all means, I'll be glad to
Bob, could you speak
deduct
up? You're
those.
battling the air conditioning system.
All right. See, maybe I'll lean over a little bit. Before I begin, Randy, thank you to your department and the finance department, and in particular Teresa Owens and Robin Bellamy. To pull off a job like this, it's probably about 800 man-hours that goes into a project like this, and it is truly a Herculean effort to bring this document together that you had tonight. With that said, the good news is that our opinion on the financial statements is an unmodified or a clean report again this year, and that's the best you can get out of a fellow like me. Your financial statements are prepared in accordance with accounting principles that are generally accepted in these United States of America, and that is pretty much the standard for comparison. You can compare your financials with other localities throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia and even throughout the nation if you so desire. During this past year, there were no material balances or transactions that lack authoritative credence within these standards that I just spoke to. In addition to our opinion on the basic financial statements, we also test your compliance with laws and regulations that may be material to these financial statements. There are two separate opinions located towards the back of the document that you have with you tonight. I'll speak about those in just a moment separately. These financial statements are yours. The responsibility for a fair presentation remains with you. Our responsibility is to express opinions on these statements based on our examinations. We do that by evaluating your internal control to assist us with the scope and direction of our audit work, not to express assurance on your internal control, but rather to guide us through that, because there may be material misstatements in these financial statements, be it intentional or unintentional. I spoke about testing compliance with laws and regulations earlier. We do that in conjunction with government auditing standards, or as you may know it, the Yellow Book, a separate set of standards that holds us to a slightly higher level. Probably about 3 or 4 years ago, the Auditor of Public Accounts of the Commonwealth of Virginia also required a separate opinion on your compliance with laws and regulations of the state. That particular report is now folded in with the Yellow Book of the Government Auditing Standards opinion. That opinion is the back of the document under the Compliance tab. Those are also unmodified or clean opinions, so congratulations on that. There's still yet another opinion in the back, and that is, it's OMB A133. It is a single audit having to do with your expenditures of federal awards or grants, which is particularly highlighted this year with the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act that was passed a year ago and the stimulus money that was funneled through the city and the school boards. That opinion is also an unqualified or clean opinion. Independence is an important part of a relationship with Cherry Bekaert and Holland and the city of Poquoson. We are, after all, somewhat of a public watchdog. I am pleased to report to you that Cherry Bekaert and Holland, myself, and all members of my audit team are, were, and remain independent with respect to the city of Poquoson. Note 1 to the financial statements contains certain significant accounting policies. During this past year, statement number 51 was a brand new statement having to do with accounting for intangibles, somewhat a seamless change to the city of Poquoson. All other policies have been consistently applied during the past year. Financial statements requires management to make estimates of certain amounts. Allowance for collectible receivables is a good example of that. Management makes those estimates based on past experience and expectations of current events. Also, they use assumptions about future events. Those considerations, those items could change, and the estimates could have to be revised going down the road, so please keep that in mind. During this past year, we had no disagreements or difficulties with your management. We had no misstatements, either individually or in the aggregate that we grouped together. No audit adjustments whatsoever. That is wonderful. Congratulations on that. Lastly, we are not aware of any consultations with other accounting firms. That is akin to opinion shopping or getting a second opinion. Our professional standards require a consulting firm to consult with us to make sure they have all the facts and circumstances before they would render an opinion to this. There has been no consultations that we're aware of. Going forward into next year is going to be a new statement that's going to have a dramatic effect to the fund statements that are in these statements. As you've seen it over many past years, you have reserved, unreserved, and designated fund balance within your statements. All of that terminology is going to change. You are now going to have restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned balances in your fund statements. Not to beleaguer that, but please be aware of that. I'll be meeting with Mr. Wheeler and his people to explain some of the changes that you as council will probably have to help them adopt to effect this change in the standards. I also found out tonight that the Poquoson High School became the champions for the state, so congratulations on that. That's not in the audit report, but congratulations. That concludes the final formal comments. If you have any questions, please.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Very good.
All right, let's move on to our audience for visitors at this time. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address council on any issue, we'd like to hear from you now. Ed?
Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Ed Matheson. I live at 236 North Lawson Road, and I would like to address you today or tonight. I have been asked by many, some who could not be here because of other pressing reasons, to speak for those many who would like to pay tribute to Tom Marie's 4 years of service to Poquoson's citizens as a council member. When I think of Tom Marie, the word that echoes through all of the activities that Tom has been involved with, it is integrity. I knew Tom during his work at Newport News Shipyard as the U.S. Navy's manager of nuclear safety. As the Navy's key representative, Tom's personal relationship with the shipyard contributed to a relentless pursuit of excellence in engineering and work execution that continued the success of the nuclear Navy. The fact that the U.S. Navy assigned Tom to manage the nuclear safety speaks volumes about their confidence in his considerable intellect and high standards. Our community was fortunate that a talented and selfless citizen like Tom Marie and his family made Poquoson their home. As a citizen of Poquoson, Tom applied his energy and leadership talents to help the high school band and as president of the Kiwanis organization to enhance service to the community. Time and again, Tom demonstrated his commitment to community service. When Tom decided to run for city council seat, it was because he could continue community service and contribute to Poquoson's future. During his campaign, Tom promised to represent the small-town vision expressed in the citizen surveys. The small-town vision included controlled growth of low-density housing that matched the scale of our neighborhoods, improved citizens' access to the water, increasing sidewalks along roadways, improving our quality of life, and supporting only responsible tax increases that matched growth in the cost of living. Tom's actions on City Council reflected his commitment to his promises. In the classic definition of a republic government, which is what we have, a republic government, Tom was an ideal representative for the Poquoson citizens. In addition to keeping his campaign promises, Tom became an energetic councilman that researched every issue to develop well-informed judgments. This pursuit of the facts and his high sense of integrity occasionally placed Tom in the position of pointing out that the king has no clothes. Tom's questioning attitude and striving to do the right thing provided healthy contributions to Poquoson's council deliberations. Tom's hard work on financial issues and state and federal regulations are of particular note. While on council, Tom always made time for citizens who were dealing with difficult problems and had nowhere else to turn. Tom's personal involvement made the difference to resolve their issue and demonstrated his willingness to go the extra mile even in the face of daunting obstacles. In summary, Tom's time on council is appreciated for his energetic service to his community, faithfully representing citizen views, and conducting himself with unflinching integrity. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Ed. Very kind words. Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Jewett?
Good evening. My name is Mike Jewett. I live at 235 North Lawson Road. And I want to thank Tom Marie for his service on Poquoson City Council. His work on council supported our citizens, the environment, and Poquoson's unique character. Personally, his dedication to saving Watkins Dock means the most to me. More than any other person, Tom Marie embraced and acted to ensure the precious right of every citizen to maintain and retain their property. My wife and I were in a very low spot when Tom helped us out. This is a good man, and Poquoson has been privileged to have his influence on council. Tom and Laurie, thank you for being a bright spot in our lives and for helping to ensure that there is a future for Watkins Dock. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Cox?
My name is Robert Cox. I live at 14 Poquoson River Drive, and I just briefly want to add my voice to the other gentlemen who have spoken regarding Councillor Marie. Mike and Ed have pretty much said everything, but I just want to thank Tom for serving the citizens excellently, in my opinion, in the last 4 years. He really added a great deal to discussions that you've had, and it's very impressive in his preparation and thought. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Anyone else? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the approval of our minutes. We have 3 sessions. We could take those individually, please.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we approve the minutes of the regular session of November 8th, 2010.
Okay. All right. We have a motion made and second. We adopt our minutes from our regular session, November the 8th, 2010. Any concerns, comments, additions, corrections to the minutes? If not, Judy, please.
Vice Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Councilman Krieger.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford. Aye. Councilman Marie.
Abstain.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
And Mayor Helsel.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0 with 1
All
abstention.
right, Judy, thank you. In the work session, November 8th?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Motion made and second. We adopt the minutes from our work session on that same date as well. Any concerns, comments regarding those? If not, Judy, please.
Councilman Marie.
Abstain.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Krieger.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford. Aye. Mayor Helsel.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0 with 1 abstention.
All right, Judy, thank you very much. And finally, the work session, December 2nd.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Okay?
Second, Mr.
All
Mayor.
right, motion made and second. We adopt the work session minutes from December 2nd, 2010. Any concerns, comments regarding those? Okay, hearing none. Judy, please.
Councilwoman Crawford. Aye. Vice Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Krieger.
Aye.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Marie. Aye. And Mayor Helsel.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
All right, Judy, thank you very much. Let's move on to item H. There are 2 public hearings. One has been postponed, but I'll read that for the public. Would have been a request of Phil and Rochelle Gillespie for a conditional use permit to operate an in-home child care business at 1G Maria Drive. And that's been postponed, but we do have a second. And Randy, do you want to, Debbie, somebody
can
prepared?
introduce it if you'd like.
Debbie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, and good evening, Honorable Council. Staff is presenting to you this evening, on behalf of the City's Planning Commission, a request by the 7-Eleven Corporation. They would like to amend an existing conditional use permit, which has been in place since 2007, in order to make some minor changes to the existing facility, which was the former site of Zoom's, located at the corner of Wythe Creek and Little Florida Roads. The proposed changes include an expansion to the existing building, change in the existing fuel pump islands configuration and the canopy, and change in the lighting plan as it is today for the canopies on the for the canopies. This is a site plan or a copy of the site plan that we have been reviewing. Staff has compared this with our site plan ordinance requirements, and everything generally complies. So let me walk you through it very quickly. The shaded area illustrates the exact changes that will occur on the site. If you'll notice the building, on the east side of the building, there's a shaded area where they propose to place about 1,000 square foot addition. That addition will run the full length of the store. It's on the interior side of the store, of the site itself. And in addition to the actual addition, there will be some designated parking spaces that will be assigned along that eastern front of the building. That's new. There has been no real designated parking spaces in that area in the past. In order to make room for those designated parking areas, they are proposing to take up the existing fuel islands. There's 3 there now. They're proposing to remove those and replace them with one single island, which will run parallel to Little Florida Road. The existing islands currently run perpendicular to Little Florida Road, so you're reconfiguring the whole area of the fuel island space itself. There will be one canopy that will be installed over the new fuel island locations. And of course, that canopy is shown in the square area. It's also shaded on this site plan. You originally considered a proposed change to this site back in 2007. At that time, the conditional use permit process was activated because of the type of use that's in place there, those type of uses. Anytime that you have a convenience store and fuel sales, it requires a conditional use permit. So back in 2007, the owner of Zooms, Mr. David Allen, approached the city and requested to basically take an existing 4-bay brick car wash facility, which is shown in the top slide on the back side of the fuel pump canopy island. He proposed to remove that facility and replace it with a single bay automated car wash facility in that general area, and to also add a second fuel island on the site with a covered canopy. At that time, several changes or several conditions were imposed on the application. Basically, our true concern with this particular use was protecting the adjacent residential uses to the east and to the south. So staff recommended and council agreed to limit the hours and the operation of this facility, to control the site layout, to require enhanced landscaping and fencing, to require a lighting plan that was submitted to the city and approved, and to prohibit exterior activities to include loud noises. Subsequently, in 2008, Mr. Allen reapproached the city and asked to abandon the car wash idea completely on the site and decided to add the third covered fuel island. That request was approved. There were just a couple of modifications made to the language of the existing conditions, but there really was no change to the former conditions that were imposed on the application in 2007. And then finally, in 2009, Mr. Allen reapproached the city after he had added the third fuel island and asked if he could expand the hours of operation from the restricted 5 a.m. to 12 p.m. daily to a 24-hour day operation. The city once again said that that was fine, and we have found that it has really caused no problems for the neighbors to the east or to the south. That request required a couple of minor modifications to the existing wording of the existing conditions. Just as a reminder, this slide illustrates that this property, which is circled in black, if you notice that the areas to the pink actually illustrates the areas that are zoned commercial. The orange illustrates the areas that are zoned residential. As I said previously, we've always been very conscientious about trying to protect the integrity of the residential character to the east and to the south of this site. And that's the reason why you all have always agreed to conditions be imposed on this application. From a land use perspective, our comprehensive plan designates this area for this type of use. So there really is no conflict with our adopted comprehensive plan. In closing, the Planning Commission considered this application last Monday evening. A public hearing was held. We did have one person to come out and speak. That person was not negatively or was not adamantly opposed to the application, but did suggest that we give some thought to boat and trailer traffic trying to enter into the site and making sure that there was still ample room for them to maneuver on the site. We did have a representative from 7-Eleven here that explained that in their review and in their development of this new site layout, that they still had to make provisions for fuel trucks. I'm sorry, I can't talk. And they didn't really feel that there would be a problem with boat and truck traffic if the fuel trucks could enter and exit on the site. With that said, the Planning Commission has supported this application, and by a vote of 6-0, they are recommending approval of it. They do recommend that you also consider an additional request by 7-Eleven Corporation. When we were going through the various conditions that needed to be revised to accommodate their needs for this new layout, there was some discussion about condition number 13. The previous wording of that condition referred to a driveway opening that used to exist close to the intersection at Little Florida Road and With Creek Road, and we had asked that that driveway opening never be opened again. So we have revised that condition to basically reflect that that driveway opening is not there, that they have to maintain the existing driveway openings as they exist on With Creek Road and Little Florida Road, which is much further away from that intersection. That driveway opening was also analyzed by a traffic engineer that was hired by the city when we originally considered this request back in 2007. So it's just consistent, it's just that we're changing the wording just to make sure that there's no misunderstanding in enforcement of those conditions in the future. And finally, this application has been advertised for public hearing through our local newspapers and on our webpage and on cable channel 46. And that's all I have.
All right, Debbie, well done, as usual. Are there any questions of Debbie, members of council? Okay, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Is there any, we'll open the public hearing now and ask if there's anyone in the audience who would like to address this.
The applicant first?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor Helsel and members of City Council, City Manager. For the record, my name is Steve Romine, local attorney. We're here tonight on behalf of 7-Eleven requesting the City Council approve an amendment to a conditional use for the property located at 436 With Creek Road. I'd like to thank Debbie for her thorough report. I will try not to be redundant, but I'll just hit some of the highlights. I think you don't have to go very far but to look at the staff report to get a full history on the site, and I think Debbie walked us through that pretty well. Essentially, the request tonight, well, let me back up a second. The parcel is about 0.63 acres. It's located at the corner of With Creek and Little Florida Road. Currently has 6 multi-product dispenser pumps on site, and the property is Zone B2. Essentially, the proposal tonight is a request from 7-Eleven, who has acquired the Zooms locations wherever they existed on the peninsula and east and west. And part of that operation is to modify and upgrade the stores. Essentially, the request tonight is to reduce dispensers from 6 to 4, increase the size of the store with a new facade, and demolish and rebuild the canopies as noted in your package. And I think if you look at the C300 is the first site plan slide that shows what's to be affected. But essentially on C400 in the site plan, you'll see that we're modifying the front of the store here, and removing the 3 canopies that are currently existing and replacing it with a single canopy with 4 dispenser pumps. That'll do several things. One thing it will do will really improve circulation on the site. It'll give us room between the store and the pumps and for cars ingress and egress to be able to circulate on site. It'll also give us some parking spaces right in front of the store. That's critically important to 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven's a national leader in convenience and gas. It's been around over 80 years. 1920s is when it started. They continue to be a leading innovator in the industry, and always critical for them to have convenience with these parking spots in front and to have a good facade with willow glass you can see through. So it's all part of national design and branding. The rendering, I think, you had in your package as well, will be very attractive. We are not modifying the store side that faces the road. It faces, I guess, With Creek Road. On the back side, all we're doing is modifying the side that's interior to the site, and this is sort of what it's going to look like with the new glass. The canopy will have attractive standing seam metal roof with the green and the logo. So pretty much ties into the existing site and is compatible.
If I can get, that's the back of the store right there where it says
This?
Circle One? What we think of as the back of the store?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's
It's interior to the site.
That's going to be your
Correct.
new frontage.
The other side of the store will not change, will not be modified. The 13 conditions that were in the original approval that rolled forward through the various approvals are acceptable with the addition of the modification to condition 13 because it's confusing, essentially. So in conclusion, I would suggest that this is a good improvement, that 7-Eleven is a good corporate business and will be a good neighbor. It'll improve circulation. We have to modify the lighting. All the lighting will be downward pointing. There will be no glare or spill off from the site, and has to be approved by the planning staff as well. And so we ask tonight that you rescind resolution number 3575 and approve the amendment to the conditional use permit with a revision of condition 13 as noted. And I'll stand by for questions.
Okay, are there any questions?
I have a question about, I had not seen the third poster you held up with the pictures.
The rendering?
Yeah. I don't know. Bottom left one.
This one?
Yes. Is that what I will see as I'm entering Poquoson from Victory Boulevard, crossing the Creek Road?
That's the north elevation, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I would see. That's what's going to be on with Creek Road. And
That
I'd like to
doesn't-
see a sign on it at least.
That's not changing.
Right.
But that is north.
Well, it does have a Zoom sign on it right now, doesn't it?
Got a
At least
logo,
labeled.
some sort on there, yeah.
I'd like to see a
logo
label
or
on it
signage on the
somewhere.
side?
There's some flower beds out there in the front, I think.
Right.
Door too. I think we're always willing.
Glass door is locked. At least you can see into it.
Over on the side.
Because that looks very much like the back of a building, and for somebody to be entering our city and looking at that, I don't know that that's...
What's interesting, you see here, this is new and this is existing.
Yes.
So we're not changing that at all. That's what's there now.
Yeah, I think what
Put some
point
signage.
is that, you may want to consider a sign there.
I mean, I think
We're
we're
not going
always-
to dictate that you have to have a sign
Yeah,
there.
we're always willing to have a sign. In
but,
fact,
you know,
we're usually limited, so.
And windows on that side might be really nice.
You're talking about something in here. I don't know what they can do architecturally,
Yes.
but,
It's, well,
Yeah, and I think it's a good point. It's a good point in that that's what you see from Victory. Currently is a blank wall.
Right.
we went through ARB, and
Understand.
they talked about,
Understand.
I'll take it back and see if they can do
Yeah,
it.
just some
The
thoughts
question
to-
becomes, particularly with windows here, whether it impacts the internal layout, but
Right.
maybe they can do something here to dress up that corner. I'll make a note of that.
Okay. The only question I had, is there any change to since you didn't impact whatsoever the design or flow around the front of the building or the With Creek side, that lane is still going to go around the building there? Is that your intention?
Yeah, essentially, this lane stays open. This is the turn-in, and you come in here and the
I'm
position.
talking on the other side of your building there. There's a
There's a lane here?
small there's a small traffic lane coming in front
Yeah,
of
that
it.
hasn't been touched either.
That's going to continue to
Correct. Yeah, no
Come in
intention.
from Little Florida.
When you can actually circle the store.
Circle the store,
Right.
yeah.
And there's one parking on the Little Florida side of it.
There's a couple of places there, yeah.
Okay, so
And
none of that's,
With
none of
Creek
that's
side,
impacted, you're not approaching With Creek Road any closer, so.
Correct,
Got it.
correct, yeah. The area of disturbance is on C300, and you see all that's left intact
Okay.
all the way around. But I think, taking 3 to 1 on the canopy is really, will be an aesthetic and a practical improvement for the site.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Was there anyone else that would like to comment? Mr. Cox?
Yeah, Robert Cox, 14 Poquoson River Drive. The only question I had was the existing store. Is this any impact on the existing 7-Eleven? I was just had a concern that you might see that closed down, have an empty building there.
I can't answer that question. I don't know what the what the dollar questions are regarding both of those stores.
The question came up at the Planning Commission. I didn't really get an answer, but the typical answer is 99% of the time they do not close stores. I understand that store is a very profitable store, very busy. I'm not aware of any intention to close the other store that's in the area. So, but I'll confirm that.
Are they owned by different franchisees? Is that it? Or
I don't know what the other story is. This store is a company-owned store.
okay.
So it would, we're actually, David Allen, Zooms continues to own the land, and we are the lessee operator, but it is corporate-owned.
Corporate, and the other one, do you happen?
I don't know
what that
about the
is?
other one. I have no idea.
That really is the nub of the question. It's
Yeah, but we do not close stores unless we're condemned or something else occurs. It's very rare that stores are closed.
Randy?
Mr. Wilson indicated that the other store is also corporately owned.
Okay.
Corporate owned? Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Then I would say there's no intention, but if that is not the case, I'll get back with
Okay,
you. Let
great.
you know. All right.
Thank you. Thank you for that point, Mr. Cox. Okay, other questions, other concerns, comments, anyone in the audience? All right, we'll close the public hearing and have some consideration by council.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we adopt a resolution approving an amendment to the conditional use permit for the existing fuel station convenience store located at 436 Wood Creek Road, tax map parcel 2701000112, 113, and 115.
All right. Second. Made and seconded, we adopt the resolution. Any other concerns or comments, any questions?
I think the only comment is that I have, and it was well recognized by Steve there, but I would like that going back, is that you do border 2 residential properties, okay? And that there's still a cut on With Creek Road that by the zoning map is residential at this time. And if they would keep that in mind as they continue their operations. It's always been a pleasure doing business with 7-Eleven within the city of Poquoson. They've always been a good neighbor. Zooms was also a good neighbor, and we just want to make sure that that continues because 2 residents have to coexist with you. Yes. Thanks.
Okay, anything else? All right, Judy, please.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Freeman. Councilman Marie.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Krieger.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mayor Helser.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
All right, Judy, thank you very much. Let's move on to new business. The first item is the Hampton-Langley Joint Land Use Study. Mr. Wheeler.
Mr. Mayor, for the last year, Joseph Carter principally and myself, in a backup role supporting him, have been working as part of the working group for the Hampton-Langley Joint Land Use Study, also called JLUS. It is a project that was initiated by Hampton, working with the Air Force and the surrounding communities, and the purpose is to define those issues, land use and development issues that relate to continued compatible coexistence and hopefully prosperous existence for the Air Force. We're asking you tonight to consider endorsing this study. It does not in and of itself commit you to do anything other than to continue to work cooperatively with the Air Force and those localities on the issues. Our issues generally are sound attenuation. Hampton has a more significant grouping of issues. Bruce Sturck, who is the Director of Federal Facilities for the City of Hampton, is here, and we are also joined by Lieutenant Colonel Mark Vanderveer of the 633rd Civil Engineering Squadron, and I would offer the floor with your
Absolutely,
indulgence to
absolutely.
either
Any
gentleman.
comments that you gentlemen would like to make?
Mayor Hessel and council, as Randy said, I'm Bruce Sturck, Director of Federal Facility Support for the City of Hampton. On behalf of our mayor, Mayor Ward, and our city manager, Mary Bunting, I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight to thank you all for endorsing and participating in the Joint Land Use Study, which was about an 18-month project in cooperation with Newport News, Poquoson, Hampton, and York County, and Langley Air Force Base. Certainly, it was a great study. We really believe that the things that it recommends and looks at in terms of continuing our partnership with the great Air Force Base at Langley is really significant. And by unity of effort and endorsing the resolution tonight with a solid voice of solidarity throughout the communities of Hampton, Poquoson, Newport News, and York County with Langley Air Force Base, we really believe that this is going to be a milestone in our efforts to continue to keep this base here and work collaboratively with Langley on actions that are identified in that study. But really, I'd like to let Colonel Vanderveer, who was his team, was really instrumental in supporting us in the study, and Randy, your team, it was great. It was really good work. Now the real work begins as we put those recommendations forward to really solidify our partnership with Langley and in the communities to make sure that we mitigate any land use issues and things that may become a challenge for us. But I think we've got some really good things to work with here. So with that said, I'd just like to introduce Colonel Vanderveer and let him talk to you. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Colonel, how are you?
Very good. Good evening, Mayor Helsel, distinguished council members. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address you here this evening. On behalf of Team Langley and the 633rd Air Base Wing, I'd like to pass on my regards from Colonel Don Kirkland, the Air Base Wing Commander. He wishes he could be here this evening and passes on his regards. We're very excited in moving into the implementation phase of this joint land use study with that increased transparency and cooperation. Special thanks goes out to Mr. Randy Wheeler and your planning staff to help make this 18-month effort a reality. And really this vision started about 5 years ago, so we're very excited to take the next steps forward. I've spent the last year in Iraq, just coming here this summer, and had an opportunity to work with the local mayor of Balad and their council members and their planning staff. But at that time, we were bedding down a portion of the Iraqi army. I'm not advocating that we bed down the Iraqi army here on Langley, or for that matter, co-located with the 7-Eleven. But we are excited at making sure that we maintain the integrity of your communities and working closely and keeping that fantastic working relationship from now and through the future so that we can ensure that Langley Air Force Base is postured for potential new missions in the future. Thank you very much.
Colonel, before you sit down, let me just say on behalf of this council and this community, we appreciate your service. Admire you greatly for your service to this country. The other thing that I want to, in our regards to Colonel Kirkland, he has been a real shoulder for us to lean on and an ear for us to chat with regarding some of the issues that we have here in Poquoson, as has Mayor Ward and the members of council in the city of Hampton. And without the assistance we've had from Langley, in particular Colonel Kirkland, and from Mayor Ward and that council, some of the issues that we'll be dealing with in this next new year, we wouldn't come close to being able to accomplish. Going all the way back to the storm Isabel, when General Wright was on base, we could not have survived here, quite frankly, without the help of Langley. I mean, the resources that came to this city immediately were just phenomenal. And so we appreciate the relationship that we have with Langley, and certainly with the city of Hampton. It's been, I think we have a relationship I don't think's ever existed before. And I'm looking forward to next year and some of the positive things that will benefit the citizens of this community with the help of Langley and the city of Hampton. So we thank you both for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make sure I'll pass those regards on to Colonel
Please do. We appreciate it. Okay. I'm sorry. Did you have any questions of either one of these gentlemen? Connor?
I'd have a question for Randy.
Yes, sir.
Looking through here, especially in Chapter 5 of the report, it talks about the implementation strategy and the different items. And there are some policy actions in here. For example, they point out that there's no clear direction for construction standards related to vibration and noise at Messick Point and Amory's Wharf. And those are the two little areas that extend in and the only parts of Poquoson that I see being changed. But there are some policy things that are recommended here. Could you briefly summarize some of the policy actions? I saw rezone Messick and Amory's Wharf area for higher noise standards and also coordinate our capital improvement plan.
Yeah.
Those were the two that jumped out at me, and I just want to get some discussion of that because we're endorsing the report, and it is behooving upon us if we're going to endorse the report that we know a little bit about the policy that we're buying into.
Yes, sir. I apologize that I've left my book upstairs, but, well, thank you. With respect to the noise at Messick Point, what the report suggests is that in times where we do a voluntary land use change, a rezoning, that we take into account noise attenuation standards and make sure that where it's not a by right use, that if it's changed, that we have full coordination with the Air Force so that they've got an opportunity to give us their thoughts on what is compatible and what could be done within the context of rezoned use to make it compatible, all the way from something as simple as disclosure to different construction standards. Part of the task that you talked to will be developed by this group over the coming years. And in fact, that's really its main thrust in the implementation standards, because not only do we need to look at some things, but I think there's a real drive to do it consistently in the area so that the developers have a single standard with which to work to avoid confusion.
Good. I just wanted to bring that out because I think that's important that we understand that we're going to have to do some rezoning and some other things, but we definitely, I definitely think this is the right way to go. We couldn't have a better neighbor. And enjoy the jet noise every day.
Mr. Sturck, if I could ask a follow-up question. My understanding was that the issues pertaining to rezoning were if a rezoning application came forward.
Yes.
But wasn't it also suggested in here that we change our ordinance for noise standards out at Messick Point, Amory's Wharf, the parts that are inside the envelope?
Yes, sir, as a recommendation. So as your council, as your planning commission, as all those things work its way forward, that's a proposed recommendation. Likewise, in the city of Hampton, we're reviewing our ordinances and all those things that were provided as things to look at as recommendations, and then if adopted by city council, would be implemented at such time. So,
and that was the only hard and fast detail I saw that you were recommending we actually change something other than coordinate processes and come up with MOUs and that type of thing.
Right, yes, sir. For Poquoson in particular.
For Poquoson, right. Hampton,
we had the lion's share of things in the report, but certainly there were things that you probably might want to consider, and as Randy mentioned, that would be through your process that you've already have in place and look through. We're looking at certain zoning ordinance activities in Hampton at this time based on the things that are in the study.
Okay. What we're saying is we have to increase the noise level down at Messick Point and Amory's Wharf because of the F-22s.
Sir, I can't speak to that.
I think he meant to say that we should be mindful of the noise and the vibration in any redevelopment or rezoning applications that we.
I think, and Hampton has taken a great leadership. And like I said, your planning has been in place for Langley for many years with the golf course and the approaches and all that sort of stuff. Poquoson's going to, I'm pretty sure, square up right behind y'all. As the mayor has said, Poquoson and Langley Air Force Base and Hampton have always coexisted together. We will continue to coexist together. We love Langley Air Force Base exactly where they are. So I don't see any hardships here for two little undeveloped properties, Messick Point and for Amory's Wharf, both of which are just minor contributors to that area as far as how much they intrude. So I don't see any hardships for Poquoson. I appreciate the formality. I think it's a great record that we will be able to build on. And again, I kind of echo what the mayor has said here. We appreciate it and appreciate the time and effort that Hampton has put into it as the leader, as the real home of Langley, so to speak. We're the good neighbor, and we're going to continue to be the good neighbor, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other questions?
Yes. Just,
Bud, yeah, go ahead.
Randy, in looking at the report, there was one thing I did not see addressed, and I'm not certain that it needs to be, especially in the area of the approach and departure paths. There were a number of charts, and it showed the approach and departure paths of the aircraft at Langley Air Force Base. But the Aero Club and smaller airplanes that use Langley Air Force Base, typically it was, I know in fact, in place, and I think it still is, they had to report inbound over Cow Island, and they flew basically a parallel to Bennett's Creek and across the city of Poquoson, perpendicular to enter the downwind leg for their east-west runway. I saw nothing on those approach and departure paths that indicated those, and they are low altitude routes over the houses of Poquoson, and they still use those. I see them passing over their regulars. Now, whether that needs to be a part of the joint land use study or not, I'm not certain, but I do know that that approach and departure path is still in existence, and it's low altitude.
I don't recall it in the report, Mr. Southall, but it is something that we can add to the discussion. We have a working group meeting coming up after the first.
We do. Again, it would be an addendum to the report if there was an issue. As the study looked at the 24 areas that were really considered issues that communities should consider in terms of noise, for example, or operational patterns as you're describing, sir, that wasn't really a significant impact to normal operations that the airfield conducts on a day-to-day basis. Certainly the Aero Club aircraft are not F-22s that create a little bit more noise, so that was part of the soup mix, if you will, but certainly as we continue down the process of looking at the overall recommendations, if there's some concern, we can bring that forward to the implementation committee, Randy, and put that into our factoring at that time.
And it may not be an issue, but, you know,
so, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Any other comments? Okay. Someone have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I
Yes, sir.
move we approve a resolution endorsing the Hampton-Langley Joint Land Use Study dated August 2010.
Second. All right, we have a motion made and second that we adopt the resolution. Any other questions, any other comments? Okay, Judy, please.
Vice Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Councilman Krieger.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Marie.
Aye.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
And Mayor Helsel.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
All right, Judy, thank you. Let's move on to item 2. It's an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances pertaining to the real estate tax relief. This is the first reading tonight. Does Graham want to speak to this? Graham?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of council. It's my pleasure to talk to you tonight with regards to something that I've mentioned many times, something that's near and dear to my heart, and that's the real estate tax relief program that we administer in our office. It's something that gives us all a good feeling to be able to help out those that are in need of tax relief on a daily basis when we do this program. The first change that being proposed tonight is a change to the filing deadline. The change is necessary to take advantage of the bright programming with regards to administering the tax relief program. Mr. Clark, our treasurer, came on board and started looking into some of the bright programming and did a lot of the background work as far as making these changes in our office. And it comes to find out there's going to be some excellent changes that we can implement very quickly and very easily by changing this date. By changing the date from November 1st to August 1st, it would allow us to update the tax relief accounts and correctly print the bills in lieu of the manual process that we currently have in place. It's a pretty simple request that outlines that basically outside of my office and outside of the treasurer's office, it'll be unnoticed by the citizenry. We will, of course, advertise this, and we will, of course, notify all the current participants in the program, so there will not be any changes whatsoever that affects those individuals, other than the date. The date, that's it. And so that's the first proposed change for tonight. I wish to stress that these two are separate. That's the date change that we'd like to definitely put in place. The second change that being discussed tonight is something that I thought that the timeliness of the first date change would leave me the opportunity to speak to you about the parameters for which the citizens are eligible for tax relief. And we've talked about this, and I've mentioned it to many of you on council throughout the years. We have not changed our parameters for tax relief since July 1st of 2008. So we're currently this is the third year we've used the same parameters for tax relief. And it's something that I see every day because individuals tend to get cost of living raises and then they fall out of the program, or they fall from 100% eligibility down to 75% eligibility, or from 75% down to 50%. And when I say eligibility, I mean exemption from their tax relief. And this past year, we had 17 families that fell from one threshold down to a lower one, meaning that they are impacted by having to pay greater amount of tax this year. We had 7 families that fell out of the program altogether. I'm not saying that this change will fix all of the problems, because people do, of course, make more money during the year. People tend to gravitate down. We need to be addressing our parameters probably every other year. It would be my suggestion, and I'd be happy to bring forth recommendations to council in the future years if council so desires. Even if y'all don't so desire, I'll probably be bending your ears. So anyway, the proposed changes tonight are twofold. One is to change the date. The second is to change the parameters. The parameters for the tax relief would be increased from $42,000 income, total household income, up to $43,000. And I would be happy to answer any questions you would have as far as the revenues, the tax exemptions that we've been exempting over the years, or anything of that matter.
I don't have any questions on that, but
okay.
The one thing you addressed, and it would probably aid our citizens, is to put a cost of living clause in here for the adjusted rate of inflation by the standard index, and adjusted every 2 years. And that would stop us from having people fall out of the program for a brief period of time.
Right.
But, I think that we ought to add that to this ordinance. I can approve it just like it is right now, but you can bring it back next week with the date change, or the next meeting with the date change, and I don't think it would harm anything if we just made that.
Yeah, there is no timeliness to the date change tonight. The only thing I would caution about putting that clause in there, when we're explaining this to the citizens, and I'm doing this every day, it's easy to say that if you make less than $25,000, you are 100% exempt. If you make between $25,000 and $33,000, you would then qualify 75% exemption. If we start using percentages, then you start getting you're between $25,000 and $33,372 or something like that. We can do that in my office. We have calculators, no problem.
Well,
but it makes it a little more challenging.
It really all comes down to the way that you round it, doesn't it?
It does. I've rounded it by thousands.
What I'm saying here is, if you do the cost of living increase and then you specify what you're going to round to.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that would be fine.
What I'm offering you is a basically, because if you look at this, you're increasing probably by greater than the rate of inflation, right?
Probably not over 3 years, though.
Not over 3 years,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is we're only picking it up every third year, and somebody falls just off the edge and back. I'd just rather stay consistent. If they qualify for income issues, we hope, number one, that they find their way out of that program. Number two, that if they're in that program, that program stays with them through the rate of inflation. And if we need to do some rounding to get it to the nearest 500, or something similar instead of the nearest 1,000. I'm just saying you can go off and study that. But I can support this tonight if that's what we want to do. I'm just trying to keep it from coming up every 2 years and people falling out while you're waiting for us to get together.
I can look at it two ways too. I'll be honest with you. I actually enjoy coming here and having the opportunity to talk about the program publicly so that more people become aware of it. Hopefully John Cawley will put something in the newspaper about this. That gives
John,
it
you
even. You got that, John? That will actually bring some more advertisement to it. And so I think that in itself is something that I don't like to lose sight of. If we just do it every year, cost of living, I'm not sure what percentage we use. But either way works,
You can consider it the next time you bring it to us for all that. I'm just saying, I can support it just like it is right now.
Okay.
But I'm just trying to.
How about I talk to
the best interest of those served
Sure.
is what should take precedent.
Right.
And I don't want people falling out.
Nor do I.
We can offer you the podium to come and talk about the program.
It wouldn't restrict you talking.
What's that?
I said it wouldn't restrict you in.
That's true. That's true.
In fact, we've got some more work to do on solid waste as ever.
How about if I talk with the city manager, and if he want to put some words in it dealing with the cost of living, we'll do so. I mean, I'm fine with that.
I agree with Gene. I'm fine to go with it the way it is at the second reading. And if there are any changes in there along with what Gene is talking about, I'm all right with that too. But I think it's important to note that a lot of these people are not making any more money.
No, that's
the fact
exactly
is that they've had to cash in IRAs and they've had to, withdraw from their savings accounts to exist in this community.
Yes.
And that's a sad time.
Yes. Yeah,
So
you're exactly right.
we lose them not because they're making more money,
No.
because they've dipped into the savings, and of course that showed up on their taxes, and you picked up on that, and when you send the bills, they're at 75% or 50%.
That's correct.
So you're going to get them back,
Yeah.
but when you do, they will have exhausted whatever savings they've got or whatever they may have in their retirement programs.
That's correct. The last thing I just want to say is this ordinance, we do in my office the real estate tax relief program in conjunction with the sewer and solid waste relief programs. Those are not included here just because they're more budgetary items, Ms. Wiggins pointed out. And so if whatever parameters we change here, later in the spring, we will incorporate these changes into those programs with council's blessing.
Yeah, Graham,
That's all I have.
Graham, just one thing, and that is about how many people are there in the program? You said 17 had fallen out. I know we've talked about it.
Yeah.
Just roughly, and the purpose of asking is, are we going to give personal notification to those people somehow? I mean, you said...
Most definitely.
I mean, talk to them or...
We exhaust all measures to make sure everybody in the program files the following year. We have personal contacts with everyone. If they don't respond to my letter, we call them.
Oh, so you have a response? Good.
Yeah, we don't count on just them applying each year. We send out notifications. We follow up on our notifications. We exhaust all means to get everyone back in the program each year. We have last year for fiscal year 2010, we had 145 people in the program, and this year we are down to 133. Unfortunately, we lost some people in the community due to death. They dropped out of the program, obviously, and then we have had we have a lot less money this year that we have given in tax relief as well. I say significant, but last year it was $212,000 that we exempted in the tax relief program. The first half of this fiscal year, it was only 97. So if you double 97, you're going to be 194. So we're basically at $20,000 less in real estate tax relief. I pointed out to the city manager that the good news through this was that I found us $20,000 in revenue for this fiscal year. So, but anyway, that's the numbers for you.
Building on that question, are there people that you're aware of that are not taking advantage of the program?
Yeah,
okay.
There are.
Because you see a lot of the tax returns, if not all.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's. We try very much to make sure the word gets out, and I have people come in reluctantly, I might add, each year, applying for the program for the first time, and I always ask them, where were you last year? Why didn't you do this last year? And the response is the same. They didn't want to. They just too proud, and they choose not to participate until they get to the point in time in their life where they feel they really have to. Yeah. And so we try to reach out to those, and we encourage everyone in the community to apply, and if you know people, we encourage you to have them apply. I'll keep talking.
question. You said it's been 3 years since we've updated this. Is that historically you do it every 3 years, or we just kind of, it fell through the cracks and we should be doing this every year, which would solve the...
Well, I don't think it
cost
fell
of
through the
living?
cracks. I think it's a budget issue. 2008, we made huge changes to the programs. In 2005, we made another change to it subsequent to 2008. 2008 was just the last time we changed the parameters for the income thresholds, but I don't say it slipped through the cracks. I think it was just it just didn't get done. I spoke to council. It wasn't a good time for the budget. It just a lot of issues come into play. But I think that by addressing it annually would be nice, but at the least every 2 years.
Because I just assumed
Yeah.
visit it every year just to,
Right.
I wouldn't mind that.
Sure, the information.
But I have
yeah.
no problem with the Gene's idea either.
Well, I just
Yeah.
don't want, our agenda ebbs and flows. It can be really busy and, especially at budget time, we may not have time to look at it. I just like it to be kind of automatic and have maybe Graham come and tell us where he is on that every year, like once a year.
That's
How many
fine.
people are participating and, more of a report out. But, I kind of like the idea of just keeping up with it over time.
I'm perfectly okay with that, and I think it sounds like a good idea. So,
All right.
We'll work on that wording.
Thank you, Graham, and
All right,
thank you
well-
for that personal touch that you give to those folks.
No problem.
Okay.
You need to take a vote on this tonight?
Yep.
Okay, Mayor, I'll make a motion that we adopt an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Poquoson, revising Sections 74, 113, 14, 15, and 16 pertaining to real estate tax relief.
Okay. Second. All right, we have a motion made and seconded to adopt the ordinance. Is there any other comments or questions? We'll see it again at our next meeting for the second reading. Judy, would you please?
Councilman Marie?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Krieger?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hunt?
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford?
Aye.
And Mayor Helsel?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, thank you, Judy. Let's move on to item 3 under new business, which is an ordinance amending section 66-44D of the Code of Ordinances pertaining to bulky item pickups. Randy?
Mr. Mayor, this is a housekeeping item which reconciles language from a previously decided upon issue of the City Council. We missed a section in reflecting your change. There is no significant policy change.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move we approve an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, the City of Poquoson, Section 66, TAC 42D, pertaining to bulky item pickups.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we have a motion made and seconded. We adopt that ordinance. Any other concerns, comments?
I think the only
Questions?
the only other comment is, that, Randy, can you explain to the citizens the service that's available to them now for bulky items as far as the first and third?
Absolutely. Pleased to do it. We started something new within the last few months, and it's already been very, very successful. The first and third Saturday of every month, back here behind the City Hall, we have, I think the hours are 9 to 1, but you need to check our website. I'm sorry?
That's right.
8 to 2, thank you. 8 to 2, we set up what is essentially a temporary convenience site. And we allow people to bring bulky goods, white goods, and also landscaping debris. There's no charge for it. You bring it, and it's just another way of helping people out. There's no fee associated with it, like a home pickup would be. And it has already been very successful, and I think when we pair that with our leaf collection, which also has a new program, I think we've done a whole lot on a relatively shoestring budget in this area in the last few months, and I commend Tom Jones and his folks, because they're the ones that are making it happen.
Absolutely.
How long is that going to run for?
The leaves? Or
Yeah,
the
the
other?
leaves.
Well, originally we had planned to do it through the end of December, but we have been so successful, and there's still a number of leaves on the trees, although maybe after today a few less. We're going to run it through the end of January or until such time in January that we're not collecting any more leaves.
Yeah. But
So
the
we're-
white goods are until further notice.
The other
first and
program
third.
is permanent, at least until changed.
Right, and
With
people
no
always ask me, what are white goods? They're like dishwashers, refrigerators, things that are, big metal things that are usually used to be white.
Okay. Comments, questions? If not, someone have a motion? I'm sorry. Judy, we ready to go on and on?
Councilwoman Crawford. Vice Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Krieger.
Aye.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Marie.
Aye.
And Mayor Helser.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thanks, Judy. Item 4 in the new business is a resolution authorizing the purchase of a vehicle for the Public Works Department. Randy?
Mr. Mayor, this item and it is also related to your second item, or the next item, is to allow, we're asking your permission to go ahead and purchase this truck. It's on your agenda for 3 reasons. The first is it exceeds $30,000, so that's beyond my ability to move forward on my own. Second, we're asking to use some retained earnings in the Fleet Maintenance Fund. As you know, we established that. Each year the money goes in from the various departments in the school division to pay for it. And we have not previously done it, or at least done it recently, but I think it's time to start reinvesting back in our fleet by coming at some of the worst offending maintenance vehicles. This one I refer to as sort of rusting in place. It is our main work truck, and I think it's 21 years old. And both Tom Jones and Tom Petty have identified it as sort of the number one replacement priority. So I'd ask your consideration for that, please. And then I can speak more to that if you'd like, but the balance of the financial discussion comes in the next item.
No question in my mind, you need the vehicle.
All right, we need a vehicle. One question I have is why are we getting it from somebody in Lynchburg rather than somebody in Poquoson?
Because it was the one that was on state contract, so it was the cheapest price. You see,
We're beholden to buy it from the state contract?
no, we're not required to buy it from the state contract. It's just the least expensive way to buy a vehicle is off the state contract.
And we've checked to see that it is cheaper than buying it from in town?
Well, we have not gone out to an IFB. We could do that if you would like.
What?
If the council would like.
Specifically, I think what he's asking is specifically to the in-city dealer, did we at least...
Have we asked him, can you beat it?
Yeah, that's,
Just
I
ask
was
him.
wondering as well.
I don't know that we have.
Can we do that and then bring it back?
We could do that, or you could simply modify the language, allow me to purchase the truck, and trust me to know that I would have done that prior to awarding it off the state contract.
I'm fair with that.
Who dictated the grant on the police vehicle?
On the police vehicle,
The new one? I mean, did that come from state contract? And I mean, that's a forward item as well.
I don't know where we bought. Teresa might know where.
Yes.
Okay.
It is typical for localities to buy off the state contract. It is normally, maybe in every case, the least expensive way to buy a vehicle, to buy a new vehicle anyway.
Okay, it's certainly no harm in checking to see if,
It's worth checking.
absolutely. So
We can do.
I don't have any problem with you moving forward.
We can do an IFB for the vehicles. We couldn't constrain it to simply one. It would need to be competitively bid, but we can do an IFB first and make sure to include our local dealer in the notification, and then move forward accordingly from there.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
That's fine.
Yes.
That's good.
Okay,
So how are we going to amend this? We're going to basically say whereas staff, we're basically, what I would like to do is propose a motion that we adopt a resolution authorizing the contract for purchase of a one-ton truck not to exceed $31,200.
Second.
Done.
okay, we have a motion made and seconded. Lawrence, you have a question? I'm sorry.
We're good?
I'm good with that.
All right. Then we adopt that resolution. And trust the city. Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Marie.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Krieger.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
And Mayor Helser.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
All right, let's move on to item 6 and talk about the additional appropriations, item 5, fiscal 2011. Randy, you want to talk about that right now?
There are several items here. Maybe it would be best to ask Teresa to come up and summarize the most significant ones to you. We just talked about one pertaining to the car, probably to steal a little bit of her thunder. The most significant of the request is the school's request for carryover, which I believe was the subject of discussion at your joint work session.
Like Mr. Wheeler said, one of the major ones is the school carryover transfer, and also some restricted money that is in fund balance right now for the fire department, the police department, and the library, as well as some grants that we've gotten since the July 1st. And the capital projects fund, there is funds that were left over from the GIS system, and we'd like to use those for other technology areas, including the AV room and support of Kids Island on the installation of the support bars, professional installation of that.
The school one I'm aware of, because we talked about that, the police department one?
The police department has asset forfeiture funds that are restricted money that we don't budget for, we reappropriate that restricted money.
What can that be used for?
That can be used for law enhancement capabilities. I think the chief is going to use some of that money to enhance some of the vehicles that he has to be used in the police department.
So like new radios or better radios?
Better radios, anything to enhance law enforcement, whatever, to better what they've already got.
Right. Teresa, I went through and just kind of looked at it in my head, but it seems like we're not going to change the unrestricted fund balance. We have revenues coming in from these various things and places for it to go out to, so we're not changing the amount of cushion that we have right now. And I'll talk about cushion in a little bit, but okay. So that said, it is staying about the same.
Yes and no.
And no.
The school right now in the financial statements is considered unrestricted. When I do the reports to y'all, I do pull that out.
Let me ask, what we were projecting for the end of the fiscal year will be unchanged by this action?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
That's correct. And the reason I'm asking the question is as we start to enter the next, probably each year, the budget seems to get harder and harder and harder. I'm trying to make sure that I understand where these dollars are going that are coming from other places so that we can make sure our other departments can at least keep up, is what I'm trying to say. Police department's getting $83,000 to improve their equipment. I wouldn't expect to see a line item in the budget for improved equipment next year for police department unless it was something that was separately justifiable.
Yes.
Okay. And that's why I'm trying to go down here, because we're getting ready to enter even the worst budget than we had last year, even though we did quite well overall. We've still got major challenges, and that's almost $100,000 line item. Those catch my eye. The others are as expected. The schools, we discussed with them the other night about reappropriating that so that they could use that for potential early retirement buyouts. The fire department is nickel dime. The only one I'm going to ever question you about is something that's approaching $100,000. So, and that's why I wanted to ask that particular question. Is I need to make sure I've got that in the back of my mind at budget season.
Was the new fire department vehicle, was that a grant?
The new fire department, I don't think there is a new fire department vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
I know that the volunteers recently bought a van.
There was $2,000.
Maybe it's the volunteers.
Are we talking about the same vehicle? I believe
It was in the parade the other
We're
night.
talking about a van, a van.
I think the volunteers paid for that.
It was in the parade the other night. That's what
Good
it was.
enough.
Volunteers paid for that.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to comment on, and that's something that I saw in letters to the editor about a month ago, and that is the idea that we have a $4.3 million surplus in our budget. And what was getting confused there is the unrestricted fund balance and how the unrestricted fund balance goes down close to zero twice a year. And the snapshot in time at the end of June 30th is when we do have about $4.3 million. But it's like saying, we don't have a rainy day fund in the city. What we do is we get a lot of money from real estate taxes twice a year, and it just so happens May is one of the times. So in June, we have a lot of money, and it's like saying the day after payday, if you got a lot of money in your checking account, you've got, a lot of money to spend. Well, that's not true because the bills keep coming in. And I think that's an important thing for people to understand, is that we do not have a lot of financial cushion twice a year when we get close to bringing in the real estate taxes, because we've just about run out of money.
We have $4.3 million that's unappropriated, that's at our disposal, and we use it for cash flow.
Yes.
Okay, that's
but it's used for
basically
cash flow.
what I'm saying is you're kind of right, Tom, and you're kind of on that edge of, you do have $4.3 million that is available for us to use to help us with cash flow issues throughout the year. One of the things that we talked about at the last budget season, we expect to see it, I guess, this budget season, is the same offer that the other cities are having right now with monthly billing. I've noticed that Hampton has gone to that now. I should have brought that up.
Mm-hmm.
And monthly billing of real estate so that we can even our cash flow out.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
That one we can check, and we're working on getting to quarterly, because I recall
Quarterly,
we talked about
quarterly,
that.
maybe it was quarterly. Maybe it was quarterly. I can't remember. But something to improve those 2 times a year that Tom has
We've been working on that since your last discussion.
Right, and Bud Southall, I know, investigated this extensively, and unless you get more money from people up front, what's going to happen if you don't, we're just going to be at a lower level and still go down closer. We're still going to go down closer to zero a bunch of times unless we have people pay earlier than they are right now. In other words, pay forward 3 months. And I don't think a lot of people are going to like that when they have to do it. But that's something for later discussion. I'm just pointing out we don't have a lot of money, and that's why I ask about the unrestricted fund balance.
So we were going to charge, wasn't in this discussion, I don't think. We're going to charge 4 times a year as opposed to 2 times a year?
I think that's the question
That was the
we're
question that
looking
we
at.
said we'd go off and ask. I know I've got several citizens asking about, they don't like the December 5th bill. I don't like it either.
Move it away from Christmas.
Move it away from Christmas, and the best way to move it away from Christmas is to give them the ability to pay either monthly, which they already do have, but they just don't recognize that they do. And so the question is, can we formalize that somehow? If you have a mortgage, it's already in your mortgage payment from the mortgage company. And the mortgage company pays us twice a year. We're not asking them to do anything different than that unless they volunteer. But the folks that own outright real estate, it would probably behoove us to see if some of them are interested to reduce our dependence on June 5th and December 5th, to not approach zero in your checking account.
We do plan to bring the answers to the questions about quarterly billing to your work session in January.
Okay.
As part of our first stab at the budget, and we'll talk about that, and we'll show you how that will impact the monthly cash flow. You'll see the impact of 4 times rather than 2 times.
Because it's deep. It's deep. So some people do very well under that scenario. Some people won't do quite as well. And I think you have to consider, everybody in the city when you talk about that.
Right.
And
So-
people, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we don't want to require it.
No, I'm just saying.
If you get hit with
it's deeper than the discussion that we're having.
We all know that get $15,000 bills in December 5th. That's a pretty healthy chunk.
Well, and if they want to pay in advance,
They
that
want to
will
pay
help us.
$1,000 a month instead, we ought to make sure that they can do that.
And they can do that right
Do
now.
that now, yes.
We understand that.
Yeah.
The question is, do they? And, do we have it out there that would encourage them to do that? what we're saying.
I'm glad we had this discussion because I think we were heading towards probably disappointing you in January. Because what I took away from the previous discussion was, can we move to quarterly billing?
Period.
So that's what we're moving towards. We're talking about discretionary quarterly bill, individual. We can work on that issue too. So I'm glad we had this conversation.
Can we get the information out to the public that they can do this, and how do we do that?
And how do you do that? How do you do that? And how do you using bill pay and all the processes and Dropbox and just trying to make it so that they want to do it, and I think they feel better December 5th as Christmas is approaching.
I think we got some more to work with, but thank you. I'm glad we had it now rather than in 3 weeks because we got time. So thank you.
All right, we pretty well
beat that one
up.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to
Please.
just make one comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were.
It's not about the billing. I just wanted to say kudos to whoever it is who's applying for and receiving all of these grants. This is a very helpful amount of money to our city, and they need to be commended. If it's you, thank you. And I also wanted to mention, Mr. Freeman mentioned it, I think at our last meeting, when he and I had gone to a meeting at Thomas Nelson regarding state and education. It was strongly suggested, I guess, that we start looking into private-public grants. And I didn't know whether our city ever looks into public grant money that's out there rather than just the state and the federal government, that there are some companies and programs that we could perhaps apply for. So I just wanted to put that out there, that that's something to perhaps think about, since we're not getting a lot of help from the state and the Fed.
So while the spotlight's on you, Tracy, you want to move to...
I'll make a motion there about that.
Tracy can second it.
Make a motion that we adopt the ordinance making additional appropriations for transfers of fiscal year 2011.
Second. All right, motion made second, we adopt the ordinance. Thank you very much. Judy?
Vice
Please.
Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Councilman Krieger.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Marie.
Aye.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
And Mayor
Aye.
Hessel. Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Let's move on to item 6, which you get a lot of comment, resolution canceling the second meeting of December 2010.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Seconded.
All right, motion made second that we cancel our second meeting in December. Any comments, questions regarding that one? I don't think so. Judy, please.
Councilman Marie.
Aye.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Krieger.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Mayor Helsel.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's move on to item 7, resolution making appointments to boards of zoning appeals, Board of Adjustments and Appeals, Planning Commission, Economic Development Authority, and Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. Does someone have a prepare with a motion with the names of...
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I propose a resolution making appointments to the various boards and commissions.
Okay.
With the following names inserted. Reference to Section 1, Board of Zoning Appeals, Mark Kramer, whose term would expire November 30th, 2011. The alternate, David Brabrand, who is alternate, whose term would expire July 31st, 2014, or December 31st, 2014. In Section 2, the Board of Adjustments and Appeals, S. Michael Evans, architect, whose term will expire December 31st, 2015. Gregory McDaniel, building, whose term will expire December 31st, 2015. William B. Price, general, whose term will expire December 31st, 2015. And Donnie F. Lawson, mechanical, whose term will expire December 31st, 2015. Section 3, Planning Commission, with the terms indicated, Richard Clifton, whose term will expire November 30, 2014. Benjamin Hahn, whose term will expire November 30, 2014. And James Titlow, whose term will expire November 30, 2014. In Section 4, the Economic Development Authority have a name of Angela Dawn Ward Costello, whose term would expire March 31st, 2013. In Section 5, Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, Judith Marseille, whose term will expire November 30th, 2013.
Second.
All right, we have a motion made and seconded. We adopt the resolution with those names inserted. Any concerns, comments regarding those?
I have one comment.
Yes, ma'am.
The term for, was it David Braybrand?
Yes.
Will actually expire on July 31st, since you moved Mr. Kramer to the final position.
Who win?
Mr. Kramer to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Okay,
Then Mr. Braybrand's term will expire on July 31st, 2014.
very good.
One thing I'd like to note, in addition to all these people, you always thank them for their community service and doing it, I think we do need to recognize Mark Kramer, because he did complete the BZA certification course, which takes 6 months and also takes weekends away from home to qualify for. So that is something that is definitely appreciated.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Okay, Judy?
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Krieger.
Aye.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Marie.
Aye.
And Mayor Helsel.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
All righty. Let's move on to item 8 on the new business, and the last item, televising work sessions. Tracy, you put this on there at your request, I believe.
Yes, sir. I have just been thinking more recently after an article in the Daily Press, as well as the Meet the Candidates Night, about how useful it is to be able to go online to see a meeting that that I may have missed, and to participate in work sessions, and for our community to be able to participate in work sessions when they cannot come to whatever time it is. I know that one of the concerns that we have, and I have the same concern, is that some people may not feel comfortable speaking in front of a camera, or we're trying to make it a friendly circle around a table. Sometimes we'll have a meeting elsewhere, but I do think that this chamber has enough room for bringing in tables and having a circle here. And I just think it's important to do as much business as publicly as we can when we can, and I don't think this would have a large cost involved. So I would like to ask for your reconsideration about the resolution that was passed a couple of years ago, and see if we could perhaps pass one now, rescinding that one, and deciding that we should televise and record and archive work sessions when we can.
Okay, all right. Any comments from council? Tom?
I have, a few years ago, I talked in favor of it, and of course, I'm still in favor of it, because I think it's good to have more transparency, openness, and really better flow of information. And that's really what it's all about, because the things that we talk about in work sessions are, quite frankly, a lot of the time more interesting than some of the things we talk about here, and we get into more depth at those times. And following what's going on in these city council meetings is hard unless you happen to have the scorecard right here to go through. And one of the things that I was amazed by when I've been talking to people extensively over the last few months is how many people actually took the opportunity to watch city council meetings. And I'm sure, and when I asked, they said yes, they would be interested in looking at work sessions too, because they just like to see the type of things that are going on in the community and what we are considering. A perfect example was our stormwater discussion we had the other day. That was very good, very detailed, and I think there's a lot of people who'd be very interested in it. And then, for example, if we had one on the FEMA process or something like that, there's a thirst out there for the information that I think would be very much appreciated by a good number of people. And for the people who don't care, they don't need to watch it. So I think it's a win-win.
Okay, anybody else?
I'll make a comment. You know, our federal government said that they were going to have more transparency in government, and they haven't done it. Okay? If we can start it at a local level, it might be a good thing. I would not want to turn off anyone who wanted to speak, who might be afraid to speak because they're on TV. I don't know what kind of impact that would have. You have been on council longer than I, and may have a better feel for that. I did go back to a citizen survey, and I could not find where there was a question related to that at all in the citizen surveys that I looked at. And so I don't have a public point of view to use as a data point as to whether my vote should be one way or the other. However, I am for openness and transparency in government, and I would have no problem with doing that.
Okay. Anybody else?
Oh, you want me to make the motion? Okay, I'll make the motion. Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve a resolution expressing City Council's intent to broadcast work sessions, and that, of course, would be in the affirmative as printed here in the package.
Okay.
And I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded, and my understanding is that to televise our work sessions. Right. Okay. All right, Pete?
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Councilman Freeman,
I just really have no opinion one way or the other, so I'm going to abstain.
Councilman Marie,
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford,
Aye.
Councilman Krieger,
Abstain.
Vice Mayor Hunt,
Stay.
and Mayor Helsel.
I'm going to vote no, but I don't understand the abstentions.
Okay, well, let's go back through the roll.
I mean, if I don't know what Wayne would tell us.
You're
but
exactly right. We can't vote. We can't
that's-
abstain from it.
You know, if you don't want them, vote you don't want them. If you do want them, vote you do want them.
Okay.
Or if you're going to
That's all I'm saying.
If you're going to abstain, say why, like Carrie did. You have to give a reason.
Well, why don't we just do it this way?
Just
Why don't we?
Does that vote not count?
well, the abstentions won't. So you don't really have a majority here. You have 3 abstentions.
My concern is, I guess, for my abstention was there, and I thought we had discussed this among 1 or 2 council members, is that some of the work sessions I think should be held just with the individual concerned and council, and not be broadcast. You know, early ongoings perhaps with the school board and things like that. Others, like Tom mentioned, they're great for the public, and I think they would benefit a lot from it. And in a lot of cases, like with FEMA and some other issues, it would save a lot of staff work and having to go out and explain things a second time, or maybe not. But that's, you know, if there was a qualification for work sessions, when we could have them, or if the council would say, hey, this one, you know, hands off.
Well,
no televised.
They're public meetings anyway. Right. You can't restrict somebody from coming.
That's true.
And we don't.
And we don't.
Which is one of the reasons that I don't know that I object to the word transparency, but I don't believe there's any local body that is more transparent than this one, or ever has been. And I'm you know, I just think the word is that particular word is it's offensive to me.
It's a cliche.
Because there's no government that's more transparent than we are.
Well, there's no government that isn't transparent.
You know?
In state, local, there's a lot of perception out there, and we feed into the perception.
I can assure you that there are folks that call members of council, that call me, that I will guarantee you they won't call in Newport News or Hampton or York County or anyplace else. And, you know, some of my counterparts, I promise you, are not out looking at ditches and looking at pipes that are, you know, need to be replaced. They're not out there doing those things. So don't tell me about transparency.
Respectfully, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. While I wouldn't disagree with you that we may be more transparent than other localities, my personal feeling is that does not mean we're doing the best we can in order to facilitate our citizens' access to our meetings. And that's mostly the point
Well,
of
I
this
feel,
motion.
I'd rather
and I
just take
feel
a
like we
motion that
are.
we don't have any
I
work
feel like
sessions.
we are because our work sessions are wide open.
I'd rather just
And you can see by the work sessions that we have, you know, what the attendance is. And show them to me. I mean, show me the folks that you know, want to be involved in our work sessions.
Right. I'm sorry, but they're just, maybe if you opened it up and you said, okay, we're gonna televise these things, maybe there are some folks out there that are going to watch and be interested. That's the point that I was trying to make, and I didn't bridge over, and that is, I was surprised by how many people watch our city council work sessions, which are hard to follow. A lot of people watch it, but very few people show up because, quite frankly, we're going on an hour and 45 minutes. It's going to be 2 hours before we're done. And that's a long time to come and sit. And it's a lot better to be, walking around the house listening to the TV, because they sure don't need to see us because there's not much action here. They just need to listen to us. And it's the same type of thing for the work sessions, where the information there's a lot of really good information that's put out, but people can't get there at 6 o'clock or 5:30, or it doesn't rank that high in their priorities, but they would listen to it because there are a lot of people, I'd say there's hundreds of people who watch this.
This is the reason that we started televising our meetings.
Right. And
we weren't transparent then either.
You're picking on the word transparent, and I understand why.
I'm picking on it. I'm just telling you what the facts are.
I understand why you're doing it, and it's really to get more information out, as Tracy says.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Do that.
Excuse me, may I make one
Sure,
comment?
absolutely.
Okay. I apologize if the word transparency was offensive, okay? And Mr. Krager said exactly what I would have liked to have said if I could have said it that well. There are some meetings that we have work sessions that the public may not be that interested in, but when we talk about things like the sewage and FEMA, and then when we have to vote on those issues, the public has no idea what we're talking about. And it would be great if we could get them all out to our work sessions, but we simply can't. And there are a lot more people who would turn on the TV set. There are a lot of people who are turn on TV sets, but there are a lot more who would turn on a TV set and get in the car and drive out here at typically what's close to most people's supper time. Right? And so, again, I don't know how things have worked in the past, but just having the availability to look at the things that they might want to look at by turning on a TV set, I think might be good on occasion. Okay? And so it may have been the wrong term.
No. But if we're into the occasional thing, then we're talking about a different.
Yeah, that's what Tom. Where you started going, Tom, was that occasionally we need to see these things. Your motion was that we'll televise work sessions.
I think we should televise them all like the other municipalities do. And there are some, I can tell you quite frankly, there's some work sessions that nobody's going to watch because they are boring. But the other ones I'll
tell you that, you can look at that from the opposite perspective as well. If I don't want to argue in public with Councilman Krieger, okay, then he and I will more than likely argue on the phone outside of the public's purview, because I don't want the public to perceive that Frank and I are arguing, even though we're just really debating. And I just use him as a thing. That's really what we talked about the last time we talked.
And you and I have had that.
I wasn't here for that, I'm sorry.
Oh, you and I have had that.
And that transparency in government is best done when we can openly debate amongst ourselves with the 7 of us here, so that what ends up happening is that the best of the 7, in other words, and that's not the best man of the 7 or the best woman of the 7, the best idea and the best negotiation of the 7. This is what I preach every time we all come together. It's not about you and me and whether we televise or not. It's about what we put forward to the citizen. I think you may find that it would have the opposite effect, in that you'll either have deadly quiet work sessions, unless we're all just sitting there listening to something on sewers or something like that, where it's just a one-way conversation where the staff's up briefing us. What you won't find in the city charter is a definition of work session. You won't see it in there. So the better way, and what some cities do, is not to have work sessions. Just do it all in public, at the public meeting. A public meeting can be very long. Watch that. Hamptons is not really a work session.
I would have no issue.
It's a meeting.
I would have no issue with that.
And that I would prefer to do that than televise an unofficial work session and then have it become a political free-for-all. Like I said, let's fall within the guidelines of what the city charter is, and say, okay, we won't have work sessions anymore. We'll just do it all
Well,
later.
let me ask this: if we were to have our work sessions in conjunction with our council meetings, that's probably something that I could support. In that, we start with our work session, and ever how long that takes us to have that, and the public turns you on at the same time, or you could back up an hour or 2 hours or whatever you wanted to do. That's probably something that I can live with. And if it goes, if our meetings go to midnight, what Tom has said applies. It applies because I'll stay here as long as the city business to do. I'll be here long after folks have
We
turned off.
certainly do that already.
Absolutely. So, as far as my time and effort regarding the good of the public, I'll spend as much time here as it needs to be to do the business of the city of Poquoson. But I don't see the advantage of putting it on, putting us on television for a work session when we're not going to say what we want to say. We're not going to do it.
Why not?
Because it's not going to happen, Tom.
We're saying what we want to say right now.
About this topic.
Yeah, but we're talking about
you know
what we
as
want
good
to.
as I do that after these meetings, how many times have you and I ended up upstairs?
And we didn't televise.
No, not upstairs. We usually talk in
Is that
parking lot.
transparency?
It's out in the parking lot.
Is that
Of course not.
transparency?
Of course, that isn't perfect transparency, but that's a one-on-one discussion which is allowed.
But you know what? That one-on-one
agree, and
discussion.
that's what's gonna
that
happen.
one-on-one discussion is the most important wording that the public would like to hear, because that is your real feeling.
Right.
Actually, I think that this discussion is quite exciting and that our public might be interested. I think that this is what they want to see, which is why I would like to see the work sessions televised.
And work sessions are already open. I mean, and
They always have
sometimes the daily press comes, and sometimes they don't. And sometimes we have people outside of the city staff who come, and sometimes we don't.
Okay, let's go back to where we were, because we certainly
We had a vote.
we do not have a majority of support.
And we obviously
So we
need
can-
further discussion.
Well, I'm ready to try to get this out of the way tonight. If there's someone else that has a motion,
Look, we've had this vote before.
I understand.
And
There's two of us new, though.
I
I
understand.
think, Mr. Mayor, that you are correct. Abstain vote is not a good vote.
we've had this.
I just
I think it's got to be yes or no.
Just
I'd like to change
more explain.
I'd like to change mine to a yes.
okay. Let's back up and do the motion again. Tom, would you?
Somewhere.
Mr. Mayor,
And then Tracy, if you want to second.
Let me make sure I get the right words. Mr. Mayor, I move we approve a resolution expressing City Council's intent to broadcast work sessions as laid out in our work package.
Okay.
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion made and second that we that we televise our work sessions. And I assume that means all of our work sessions. Okay? All right. Judy, please.
Councilman Marie,
Aye.
Councilman Freeman,
I'm going to stick with my abstention.
Councilman Krieger,
Yes.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hunt,
No.
Councilwoman Crawford,
Aye.
and Mayor Helsel.
No.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 4-2 with one abstention.
Okay, and if you would, Randy, next work session, set it at a time that is the best time that the public will be. And I don't know what time that would be. I imagine most people get home 5:30. I don't know that, but if we need 2 hours, then we'll have it at 5 so that we're ready to go at 7. If it's an hour, we'll come on at 6 and go to 7.
It should be a standard time.
Yeah, so that.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
about
sir.
that? Do we want to change them from what we're normally doing now with work sessions? And just keep them the same time we always do? We just turn the camera
Doesn't
on?
matter to me.
Well, me neither.
Time really
just
doesn't.
curious.
I think we could probably vote on this again in January.
Well, the next
What
work
difference
session.
does it make?
The next work session will be televised. Okay.
Right.
All right.
Whatever that is.
All right. Let's Let's move on, unless there's other comment about that. Have you got any comments, Mr. Manager?
I just have a few. For the benefit of the public, just a reminder that city offices will be closed December 23rd, 24th, and 31st. As usual, if there's an emergency, all of our folks that handle that will be around to provide assistance. The second of two items. At your last meeting, there was a consensus of the council to invite property owners that live along Poquoson Avenue and the area proposed for the sidewalk project to come to a meeting so that the council could hear firsthand their thoughts and concerns relating to the project. At that time, you all asked that I come up with some suggestions on times and dates and places. So as I articulated at that meeting, my suggestion is perhaps use the intervening week between your two regularly scheduled council meetings in January. At that meeting, I suggested the community center, which is not available on that Monday. It is available on the 18th and 19th of January. An alternative, if you wanted to do it off-site, to do it at Fire Station 1 on the 17th. If you like getting those dates, and after your last conversation, if you would like to have it here, we can certainly accommodate that.
Okay, I'm fine with whatever the venue needs to be. I'm okay with that. Like, it doesn't matter to me, nor does the date. And that the rest of the council would feel more comfortable checking your calendars and get in touch with Randy. And my understanding of that meeting is that we are coming to listen. Okay. Just so.
No proposal, no briefing, just what their concerns are.
And this meeting is for the property owners along Poquoson Avenue.
Property owners, yeah.
Residents along Poquoson Avenue.
Yeah, right. Okay. All right. Anything else, Randy?
We haven't decided yet.
18.
But that will be a public meeting, obviously, since it's.
Yeah, it has to be a public.
Yeah. Okay.
The date on that again?
Well, I proposed several dates, 17th, 18th, or 19th. If members of council, if you have a conflict, if you could let Vicky or I or Judy know in the next couple of days, if any one of those evenings or all of them are a conflict for you, and we'll make sure we can find a date that works for all 7 of you, and then we'll go ahead and issue the invitation.
The 18th is fine with me.
That's fine with
I don't
me.
need to call you back. What you propose is fine. The rest of them, maybe I'll call, I guess.
18th's good.
Any concern with community center on the 18th of January then?
None with me.
Can't televise from there.
I'll let you know if it's a problem. My
The work
calendar's not working right now.
Is it in a work session? What is it? Is it a work session?
I think it was originally suggested as a special meeting.
What is that?
It's not a work session.
Not part of the city charter either.
We hadn't voted on special session.
Pleased to receive direction from.
Can we have a special meeting?
All right. So it appears that the leader is January the 18th at the community center. Mrs. Crawford will check her schedule, and if that's not a conflict with her, we'll proceed unless directed otherwise.
18th, okay. All right.
Thank you.
Let us know if there's...
Okay.
And
Anything
I'll
else?
let you know if there's a conflict. No, sir.
Okay. Start with Bud.
Yes, sir. Just a couple comments. I'd like to congratulate our football team, the cheerleaders, and the band, the coaches for the outstanding performance and doing their job in an excellent manner and making that city proud. And this being Tom Marie's last meeting with City Council, I'd like to thank him for his work for the city. You know, I have the shortest experience on City Council, and all of you have been helping me, some of you more than the others, and a lot of you spent some time helping me to come up to speed on things, most especially the budget. I appreciate Tom's attention to detail, his thorough analysis, and I like the way he did his analysis through Excel and graphical analysis, much the way I'm used to doing them at NASA, and he did a really good job. Tonight's his last meeting, and obviously he looked well into the joint use space with his comments. And so I thank you, Tom, for your service on council, and I thank you for including me as your friend. I wish you the well in the future.
Thank you.
Okay. Tracy?
I'd like to echo Councilman Southall's comments.
Okay.
Good enough. Kerry?
Yes, first thing, congratulate our new state champs and also our award-winning band, because they won an award just right before that. And then Mr. Marie, who I just found to be a good person and friend. I thought he always acted with what he believed to be the best interest of the city. He's honest, lots of integrity. You could depend on what he said, and it was good. He researched his ideas. Of course, Ed, Mike, and Rob said all this, but I'm going to say it again. He researched his ideas, and what you said was always thoroughly researched and backed up with data. An example of that's tonight, talking about Chapter 5 and the Langley noise thing. I found you easy to work with, even though we disagreed on most stuff, like whether we ought to televise. But you didn't get mad at me. No. And we just worked together real well, even though we did disagree. I think you're a great city asset, and you definitely be missed. And other than that, I want to just wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
All
That's
right.
all.
Thanks, sir. Frank.
Yeah, happy holidays to everybody. And I was going to say something about Tom, but Tom's about 5 feet off the seat right now. After all the compliments from council and also from Mr. Cox and Matheson and Mr. Jewett. So let's bring him back down to earth again.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Gene?
Just to echo all the comments here tonight. Tom, wish you well. Appreciate the debates that we've had through the years. Looking forward to the new year. Welcome. Looking forward to the many challenges that we'll have, and hopefully that the best of the seven will come out, as I've talked about before, the best ideas and the best plan for the people of the city, not just for the best to claim it their own.
All right. Couple of things. I asked Randy today if he would look into signs at the entrance of each city that will certainly honor not only our football team, but our baseball team as well. So I know he's on top of that. We'll certainly have that team here at some point in time, so that we can say thank you in a more proper way. It was one heck of a ball game. I saw a lot of you folks were there. I know Mr. Gifford was there, and it was just quite a day. I'm not so sure that we didn't match in terms of fans the competition, and those boys just did a tremendous job, and they've been well coached, and they're just good kids. So we've got a lot to be. They've made us proud. I mean, they've put us on the map once again, and it's amazing how our youth do that all the time. Right? Whether they're 6 years old or whether they're in high school, they seem to continue to do that. I have talked with all of the property owners regarding the mulch trail that we talked about. They were all on board. They have no problems with what we want to do. There is a legal contract that Wayne is working on. I did get an email this afternoon. One of the pieces of property is changing hands, and so the person who will be the new owner is also interested in getting on board, and I'll call that individual tomorrow to try to explain what it is that council wants to do, and hopefully we can secure that property owner as well. Nancy Kane has asked, Nancy being the retired clerk of court of York County for many years, has been put on a commission by Judge Atlee, and it has to do with abused children, underprivileged children, and she and her group very much want to sit down with this council, and they would like to do it in a dinner form, hopefully at the Briar Patch. Vic, I'm sorry, was there a date that she had thrown out there? No, I think she's looking for a date. So why don't we just get with council by phone and just see if we can firm up the date? I thought that if we did it here in the city, we'd have more folks who could get there. They suggested York County as well, but it's probably something we need to hear and want to hear, especially when there are children involved. So anyway, and for points to be made, that's what I've got tonight. I mean, to our staff and to the city, gosh, I hope Christmas just treats everybody very, very well, and I'm excited about Christmas. I get excited about this time. I want to thank Randy for filling in for me on Friday afternoon, and my apologies to the Kiwanis Club. But we had a medical emergency we had to deal with, and I was sorry I couldn't be there, but had it not been for that, I would have been there. I bet you thought I wasn't going to say anything to you, didn't you?
No.
Tom, I certainly echo the comments of members of council, of Ed Matheson and Mike Jewett, and there are others. There are many others. I think you and I had a unique relationship in that when we did not agree, we could take it upstairs and talk about it. And I learned from that, and I can only hope that maybe I had some effect on you as well. We did not always disagree.
Most of the time we agree.
Most of the time we did.
Agreed on everything.
I just I just want to thank you for your service to this city. Being on this city council is a thankless job at very best, and to take the time and put forth the effort, not just you but your family. I mean, your family has been on you've been on loan to us from your family for 4 years. And that's a tremendous amount to ask of anybody. I think that positions that you've championed have been good positions, and there's no question that you were well researched. No question about it. I only wish that I could research as well and reach those conclusions. But I have no problem telling anybody what my limitations are. But I want to thank you for your service. I want to thank you for your counsel and your calls. I was never surprised by anything that you came in this council chambers with. You were always up front with me, and I hope that I was always up front with you as well.
Yeah, I think I said I'd always stab you in the front, not in the back.
Yeah, you did. You did.
I think that's the exact words.
But not too many holes. Not too many holes. But I think all in all that built a good relationship. I believe that. And I just wish for you and for Lori and your children, all the best. And stay active. Stay active and continue to let the community benefit from what you have to give. And, with that said, I will ask for a motion to adjourn after you saved you for last.
Oh, well, thank you. I'd like to say that I really appreciate all the people that have helped and all the discussions that we've had over the years. When you leave anything, I always counsel the people who work for me, when you leave a job, you leave with the money you got paid, which in this case ain't much, and you leave with what you've learned. And I have learned a tremendous amount from the people on this council, but most especially from the staff, because when I have questions and I call them up, Teresa is here, Graham is here, others are here, you learn a tremendous amount. And we really have a top-notch staff, and we always talk about giving them the recognition that they, because we always give them the recognition that they really do deserve. And the one thought that I'd like to leave for the future years is that we do continue to look at the compensation for the city employees, because I've said many times when we had Judy's been fabulous. I shouldn't have missed you. When Judy pulled together the compensation, and some of our public employees are 15 to 25% less compensated than other municipalities, we started in the right direction last year, but I think that's something that we got to keep in the forefront in the future. because we really do have a special staff and special people. And with that, I'd also like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and I move we adjourn.
All right. Just a second.
Second.
All right. We have a motion made and second we adjourn. Ms. Wiggins, please.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Krieger.
Aye.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Marie.
Aye.
And Mayor Helsing.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion was carried by a vote of 7-0.
And we are adjourned. Thank you, Chief.
1 o'clock.